And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Wednesday morning showing a huge area of IFR here, interior Alaska from the Arctic coast all the way out to the eastern Bering Sea. And then a fair portion of the Aleutians, marginal VFR. Bristol Bay VFR, kind of a zone of VFR right through here. And then hit some more IFR in the Copper River Basin and in Prince William Sound, southern Kenai Peninsula. IFR for Kodiak Island. Southeast coast, pretty good conditions there. A little bit of marginal VFR in toward the south coast. Then for the afternoon, that pattern holds here. Eastern Copper River Basin, right on down the southeast coast. VFR, marginal VFR sliding in across Prince of Wales Island, but the IFR staying off the coast. IFR again, south side of the Kenai Peninsula, into Kodiak Island, along and south of the Alaska Peninsula, and near the eastern Aleutians, northward over the eastern Bering Sea to St. Lawrence Island, and then northeast here across the North Slope, Arctic coast, and for a portion of the Brooks Range. For Thursday morning, IFR, North Slope to the eastern Arctic coast. Better conditions just south of the Brooks Range there to the Noatak Valley, Kivalina, VFR, and then more IFR here, central interior, especially over on the east side there from the Yukon Flats, right on down into the eastern Alaska Range. Some VFR, though, for Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley, northeast Bristol Bay, eastern Copper River Basin, and again, the southeast coast. Still some marginal VFR along the south coast, IFR Kodiak Island. Area of IFR sitting out over the southeastern Bering Sea, and also some IFR along and south of the Alaska Peninsula. For the afternoon hours, this area over the southeast Bering Sea shrinks a little bit, the IFR that is. Marginal VFR, Alaska Peninsula, westward to Shimianatu, northward to St. Lawrence Island. VFR for the mid and lower Yukon River Valley on out to the Delta, into the Kuskokwim Delta. Good VFR there, right on up Seward Peninsula, Kotzebue, northwest coast. Some IFR right along the north side of the Brooks Range there, otherwise marginal for the Arctic coast. And some lingering IFR over on the east side here. Otherwise, some marginal VFR for Kodiak Island, IFR for Kodiak Island, marginal VFR for Prince William Sound, good VFR here, eastern North Gulf Coast, and all of the southeast coast. And now on to passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, both starting out IFR, turning better in the afternoon to marginal VFR at some point in the afternoon, with the lowest conditions early on. Lake Clark and Merrill, occasional marginal VFR for those passes. Same forecast for rainy, as well as windy, kind of marginal up that way. And for Isabel, IFR, Mentasta, marginal. And Tanita, occasional marginal VFR. Portage, IFR, eastern entrance with marginal VFR through the main pass. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels here, 2,000 to 6,000 feet across southern Alaska, right in across the southeast coast there, and about 2,000 feet over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Icing with that front and moisture coming up to the north and a little bit to the northwest here with that front extending east-west up across Kodiak Island. Look for some considerable moderate rime icing there in across Bristol Bay and Kuskokwim Delta, right across the Pribilof Islands, and then down into the eastern Aleutian. No icing expected of any significance in the central interior areas into the northern panhandle. Then some more considerable moderate icing possible there for the eastern Arctic coast. Jet stream, 33,000 foot wind flow here, high pressure ridging across southern Alaska into the panhandle. And we've got actually on the north side of that, west to southwest winds are basically westerly flow there up to 75 knots. Southeast at about 80 knots. Due to this low here just south of the west central Aleutians. And at 9,000 feet, east-southeast 40 knots across the Alaska Peninsula, and kind of diminishing and turning more northeast out over the western Aleutians. Pretty light westerly flow here over the north central interior areas. And light winds down along the southeast coast, also into the Gulf of Alaska, picking up a little bit here with that frontal boundary there for Kodiak Island. These winds probably somewhere between 25, 35 knots. And at 3,000 feet, definitely stronger winds here, anywhere from 35 to 50 knots. Kodiak Island into Bristol Bay. east-northeast or northeast there, about 40 knots over the eastern Bering Sea. Light winds here, much of interior Alaska, all the way up to the Arctic coast. Not too bad for the Gulf, even lighter there for the southeast coast, kind of a light southeast breeze there at 3,000 feet. Turbulence-wise, look for considerable moderate turbulence here. Southern Kenai Peninsula, Barren Islands, Kodiak Island, the Aleutian Range, Kamishak Bay, into Bristol Bay, and along the north side there, especially over the Auckland mountain areas, and then light to isolated moderate turbulence extending down across the Pribilof Islands into the west central Aleutians, say Adak out to about Kiska, and northward here across the Yukon Delta.